The observation deck of the Stellar Horizon research vessel was silent. Captain J1 Park stood motionless, his dark eyes fixed on the holographic display that showed the most puzzling incident in the Galactic Confederation's recent history. 12 highly trained researchers, advanced protective gear, cutting-edge weapons, and yet they had been completely disabled by something no bigger than a human hand. "Replay the recording," he said quietly to Hyun-Ki, the lead xenobiologist who looked like he hadn't slept in days. The hologram flickered to life. It showed a standard planetary survey mission on Kepler 452 bits, a world thought to be unremarkable. The research team moved carefully through a rocky terrain, their environmental suits gleaming under the planet's twin suns. Scanning equipment blinked, communication devices hummed with routine chatter. Then everything changed. A small movement caught the camera's edge. At first, it looked like nothing more than a ripple of light. A tiny, almost transparent shape that seemed to blend completely with the rocky background. Most species would have missed it entirely, but this shape moved with purpose. The first researcher to notice it was Dr. Lee, a veteran of over 50 planetary expeditions. His hand reached for a scanning device, but he never completed the movement. One moment he was standing, the next he collapsed. No sound, no struggle, just instant, complete incapacitation. Other team members reacted. Their training kicked in. They drew weapons. They tried to create a defensive formation, but it was useless. Within 3 minutes, all 12 researchers were down. Not dead, not bleeding, just completely neutralized. The recording showed something extraordinary. A tiny octopus-like creature, no larger than a human's palm, moving with incredible precision. Its skin changed colors rapidly, shifting from rock gray to a metallic blue, then back to near transparent. Each movement was calculated. Each touch seemed to trigger an immediate shutdown of the human nervous system. "Explain this to me," Captain Park said, his voice calm but carrying an edge of tension. Hyun-Ki took a deep breath. "It's from Earth, a planet most advanced civilizations considered primitive. This creature is, well, it's something entirely new." He pulled up additional data. Molecular scans, venom analysis, biological structure. Each piece of information was more shocking than the last. The creature was a marine organism, originally from Earth's deepest oceans. Its biological makeup was so complex that current xenobiological models couldn't even begin to understand its neural toxin. It didn't just paralyze. It seemed to completely rewrite neural pathways in seconds. "How is this possible?" Park asked. "Evolution," Hyun-Ki responded. "This creature evolved in one of the most competitive environments on its home planet, the deep ocean, where survival means being faster, more adaptable, more deadly than anything else." The hologram zoomed in on the creature. Its translucent skin seemed to pulse with an inner light. Small tentacles moved with a precision that seemed almost intelligent. It wasn't just a predator. It was a perfect survival machine. "We need to inform the Galactic Confederation," Park said finally. "This changes everything we know about biological warfare, about planetary surveys, about everything." Hyun-Ki nodded. A single tiny creature from a supposedly primitive planet had just rewritten the rules of galactic exploration, and nobody was prepared for what this might mean. The laboratory was a fortress of glass and steel, sealed from the outside world. Dr. Yoon-ji Kim stood at the center, surrounded by equipment more complex than most planets' entire scientific facilities. In front of her, carefully contained in a triple-reinforced specimen chamber, was the creature that had become the most studied organism in the galaxy. "Begin primary analysis," she spoke clearly into her recording device. The first challenge was simple containment. Normal containment systems failed. The tiny octopus could change its body structure at will, squeezing through microscopic gaps that should have been impossible. Its skin wasn't just a covering. It was a living, thinking organ that could adapt to any environment in seconds. Initial scans revealed something impossible. The creature's cellular structure defied every known biological model. Its DNA wasn't just complex, it was adaptive. Each cell could completely rewrite its own genetic code in milliseconds. Where other organisms needed generations to adapt, this octopus could change in moments. Dr. Kim's team had brought together experts from 17 different species, Florvaxian biochemists, quantum biologists from the Orion Nebula, genetic researchers from 100 different worlds, and they were all baffled. The venom was the most terrifying component. Most toxins worked in simple ways. They blocked signals. They destroyed cells. They caused immediate damage. This was different. This venom was a precision instrument of biological reprogramming. When the venom entered a body, it didn't just stop functions, it rewrote them. Imagine a computer system. Normal viruses might crash the system or delete files. This venom was like a perfect hacker that could rewrite the entire operating system without leaving a trace. It could shut down neural pathways, redirect electrical signals, create new connections, all without causing physical damage. "Look at this," Dr. Kim said to her assistant, Dr. Park Sung-min. She projected a holographic image showing the venom's molecular structure. It wasn't random. It wasn't chaotic. Each molecule was designed with a precision that suggested something more than natural evolution. It was like the venom had been engineered. But by what? And how? They tested the venom against hundreds of biological systems: mammalian, insectoid, silicon-based, energy-formed creatures. It worked on everything. Not by destroying, but by understanding and redirecting. "This isn't a weapon," Dr. Kim said quietly. "This is a communication system." Her team looked confused. Communication? How could a toxin be a communication system? She explained. The venom didn't kill. It didn't permanently damage. It temporarily rewrote neural connections, creating a kind of forced understanding between different biological systems. It was as if the creature could temporarily merge its consciousness with another organism. More tests revealed even more shocking information. The octopus could learn from each interaction. Each time it came into contact with a new species, its venom became more precise, more understanding. "We're not looking at a predator," Dr. Kim told the Galactic Research Council. "We're looking at the most advanced communication device in the known universe." The implications were staggering. This tiny creature from Earth wasn't just a biological anomaly. It was a bridge between different forms of life, a universal translator written in molecular code. Some researchers became excited. Others became terrified. But everyone agreed on one thing: nothing would be the same again. The Mariana Trench research vessel hung in the dark waters of Earth's deepest ocean. Its powerful lights cut through absolute darkness, revealing a world few had ever seen. Dr. Seong-min Park adjusted his viewing screens, hunting for something most scientists had missed. This was where it all began. The deepest part of Earth's oceans was not a peaceful place. It was a battlefield. Survival here meant being smarter, faster, and more adaptable than anything else. No creature knew this better than the tiny octopus that would change galactic history. Most creatures fight with size and strength, but in the crushing darkness of the ocean's deepest point, size meant nothing. Pressure could crush any large organism instantly. Light never reached these depths. Temperatures were near freezing. Only the most advanced life forms could survive. The octopus evolved differently. Its first defense was invisibility. Its skin could change faster than any camera could track. One moment it looked like a rock. The next, it blended perfectly with the dark water. But invisibility wasn't enough in this harsh world. Then came the venom. In the Mariana Trench, every creature was a potential predator. Nothing was safe. Nothing was guaranteed. Survival meant having a weapon that worked instantly. The octopus developed a toxin that wasn't just a defense. It was a complete biological reset button. Dr. Park's research showed something incredible. Each generation of these octopuses learned from its parents' experiences, not through teaching, not through communication, through actual genetic memory. When a parent octopus encountered a dangerous situation, its genetic code would change. Those changes would pass directly to its offspring. It was like the entire species was one big connected brain. Each encounter made the next generation stronger. The first octopuses in the trench were simple creatures. They could change color. They could squeeze through tiny spaces, but their venom was weak. Over thousands of generations, something remarkable happened. The venom became a communication tool. Instead of just stopping predators, it began to understand them. It could temporarily connect with other organisms' neural systems. It could read their intentions. It could redirect their actions without causing permanent damage. This was more than evolution. This was rapid, intelligent adaptation. Dr. Park found genetic markers that showed something impossible. The octopus's DNA could rewrite itself in real time. Most organisms needed generations to adapt. This creature could change in moments. It's like the entire species is one living computer, Dr. Park told his research team. Constantly updating, constantly learning. They discovered something even more shocking. The octopus didn't just adapt to its environment. It could predict environmental changes before they happened. Its genetic structure contained predictive algorithms that modern computers couldn't match. How did a small creature in the darkest part of the ocean develop such advanced capabilities? The answer was simple: absolute competition. In the Mariana Trench, only the most advanced survived. There were no second chances, no room for error. Every moment was a fight for survival. The galactic researchers began to understand. This wasn't just a marine creature. This was a perfect survival machine. A living example of what happens when evolution meets absolute necessity. The tiny octopus from Earth's deepest ocean had been preparing for millions of years, waiting, learning, adapting. And now it was ready to show the galaxy what true survival looked like. Nature had been running its own secret experiment, and nobody had been paying attention. The Kralaxian battle cruiser Voidhammer hung in space like a massive steel shark. Its weapons could destroy entire planetary systems. Its defensive shields could stop 100 smaller ships. The crew considered themselves invincible. Their target was simple: a small human research vessel floating near the edge of neutral space. The humans had something the Kralaxians wanted: information, technology, resources. It didn't matter. The Kralaxians always took what they wanted. Captain Reckler stood on the bridge, his 6 eyes scanning the smaller human ship. His claws clicked against the metal control panel. This would be an easy capture. Humans were known to be weak, primitive, no match for Kralaxian technology. The boarding process began exactly as planned. 12 Kralaxian combat troops entered the human vessel through a precise hull breach. Their powered armor could stop most weapons. Their neural implants gave them reaction times faster than any organic creature. They moved with military precision. Nobody noticed the small container that fell during the boarding action. The first Kralaxian soldier to step into the main research area didn't understand what was happening. One moment he was moving forward. The next, his entire body stopped working. Not dead, not injured, just completely shut down. His neural implants went dark. His muscles stopped responding. His advanced combat systems became useless pieces of metal and plastic. The other soldiers reacted quickly. They tried to understand what was happening. They activated emergency protocols. They attempted to communicate with their ship. Nothing worked. Within 3 minutes, all 12 Kralaxian soldiers were completely neutralized. Their advanced technology, their genetic modifications, their years of training, all became useless against something no bigger than a human thumb: a tiny octopus. Back on the Voidhammer, Captain Recklar couldn't believe the reports. His communication systems showed the boarding team was alive but completely unable to function. No damage, no injuries, just total neural shutdown. "What is this?" he demanded. The ship's scientists were confused. Their scanner showed a biological agent, but it wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a poison. It was something else entirely. The human research vessel didn't run, didn't fight, just waited. More Kralaxian ships arrived. They expected to find a destroyed human vessel. Instead, they found something that changed everything they knew about warfare. 12 elite Kralaxian soldiers, completely neutralized, not by weapons, not by technology, but by a tiny creature from a planet most galactic species had ignored. Communication channels exploded. The Galactic Confederation's emergency channels lit up. Researchers scrambled to understand what had happened. Military leaders became nervous. Humans had something special, something nobody had expected. Captain J1 Park watched the reports come in. He understood something the Kralaxians didn't. This wasn't about winning a fight. This was about survival, about adaptation. The tiny octopus had just sent a message to the entire galaxy, a message written in the language of biology, a message that said, "We are here, we are different, and we will survive." The Kralaxians learned a hard lesson that day. Size doesn't matter. Technology doesn't always win. Sometimes, the smallest creature can change everything. One tiny octopus had just rewritten the rules of galactic conflict, and nobody was ready for what would come next. The Galactic Confederation's main council chamber was silent. Representatives from 100 different species sat frozen, their eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the Kralaxian incident. Humans had always been considered the new kids, the young species, the ones who didn't understand galactic politics. Nobody was saying that anymore. Ambassador Li Hun stood at the center of the chamber. Around him, alien representatives from across the galaxy watched with a mixture of fear and confusion. Some looked angry. Some looked impressed. Most looked terrified. "Let me be clear," Ambassador Li said. His voice was calm, simple, direct. The hologram showed the entire incident again. A tiny octopus, 12 advanced Kralaxian soldiers, complete neutralization without a single drop of blood. The Kralaxian representative tried to speak. His tentacles moved nervously. His translation device worked overtime to capture his emotions. "This is a weapon," he said. "This is not fair." Ambassador Li raised an eyebrow. "Fair. This is survival." Each species in the chamber represented millions of years of evolution. They had weapons that could destroy planets. They had technology that could rewrite entire star systems. But none of them had what humans had. A small creature that could understand and adapt faster than any computer. The diplomatic implications were huge. Humans went from being seen as a young, developing species to something else entirely. They were now the species with a biological technology that could neutralize any threat without killing. Think about that for a moment. Most galactic conflicts involved massive destruction. Entire planets burned. Millions died. But humans had found a way to stop conflicts without destruction. Their tiny octopus could temporarily disable any threat, giving time for communication and understanding. Some species were excited. They saw potential for peaceful resolution. Other species were scared. They saw a threat to their power. The Kralaxian representative demanded explanations. Where did this creature come from? How can we protect ourselves? Dr. Yunji Kim, who had been studying the octopus, stepped forward. Her presentation was simple and clear. "This isn't a weapon," she explained. "This is evolution. This is what happens when a species must survive in the most difficult environment possible." She showed images of the Mariana Trench, the darkest, most pressurized place on Earth, a place where only the most advanced life forms could survive. The council members looked confused. How could something so small come from such a harsh environment? Dr. Kim continued, "Survival isn't about strength. It's about understanding, about adapting, about finding a way to communicate when communication seems impossible." The Kralaxian representative tried to argue, but everyone could see the truth. Humans had discovered something special, a way to stop conflict without destroying anything. Some species wanted to study the octopus. Some wanted to create defenses against it. Some wanted to understand how it worked. But everyone agreed on one thing. Humans were no longer the young, naive species in the galaxy. They were something else entirely. Ambassador Lee looked around the chamber. "We are not here to fight," he said. "We are here to understand, to communicate, to find a way forward that works for everyone." The tiny octopus had just changed galactic politics forever, not with weapons, not with destruction, but with the most powerful tool in the universe, the ability to understand. The research station floated above Earth's Pacific Ocean. Dr. Seong Min Park stood at the main observation window, watching the water. Most people saw an ocean. He saw a living system more complex than any technology in the galaxy. The tiny octopus wasn't just a creature, it was a messenger, a living example of how life adapts when survival depends on understanding, not fighting. Earth's oceans were a battlefield. Every inch was a competition. Creatures didn't survive by being the strongest. They survived by being the smartest, by understanding their environment better than anyone else. The octopus was the perfect example of this. Most scientists looked at biology as something fixed, unchanging, but the octopus showed something different. Its entire existence was about constant change, constant adaptation. Dr. Park's team discovered something remarkable. The octopus didn't just react to its environment. It predicted it. Its skin wasn't just a cover. It was a complex sensor system. Each cell could read temperature, pressure, chemical changes. Before something happened, the octopus already knew. Imagine a creature that could feel a predator coming before the predator even moved. A creature that could change its entire body structure in milliseconds. A creature that could communicate without sound, without movement. That was this octopus. The team studied hundreds of specimens. Each one was different, yet each one was connected. Like a big, living computer network. Information passed not just through genetic code, but through some kind of biological signal that scientists couldn't fully understand. "It's not about survival of the strongest," Dr. Park told his research team. "It's about survival of the most understanding." They found something even more interesting. The octopus didn't just adapt to its own environment. It could temporarily understand other environments. Its venom wasn't a weapon. It was a communication tool. When it touched another organism, it didn't just stop its functions. It created a temporary connection, a way of saying, "I understand you. I mean no harm." This was different from anything in galactic biology. Most species fought. These octopuses found a way to understand. The research expanded. They studied how the octopus survived in the Mariana Trench, the deepest, darkest place on Earth, where pressure could crush a metal ship, where temperatures were near freezing, where no light ever reached. Most creatures would die instantly. The octopus thrived. Its body could change molecular structure in moments. Its cells could redirect energy faster than any computer. It didn't just survive. It understood how to survive. Dr. Park realized something important. This wasn't just about one small creature. This was about a new way of understanding life. Survival wasn't about strength. It was about understanding. The galactic researchers began to see the octopus differently, not as a weapon, not as a threat, but as a perfect example of what life could be. Imagine a species that could stop conflicts without destroying anything. A species that could communicate without words. A species that could adapt faster than any technology. That was this octopus. And it came from Earth, a planet most galactic species had ignored. "We've been looking at life wrong," Dr. Park said in his final report. "Life isn't about fighting. It's about understanding. About finding a way to connect when connection seems impossible." The tiny octopus had just taught the galaxy its most important lesson. Survival isn't about power. It's about adaptation. It's about understanding. The research lab looked like something from another world. Bright lights, clean surfaces, machines that hummed with complex energy. At the center of everything was a small container. Inside, a tiny octopus moved slowly. Dr. Hai-Jin Kim watched carefully. She was not just a scientist. She was a translator between biology and technology. The octopus venom was more than a defense system. It was a perfect communication tool. Researchers discovered something incredible. The venom could do things no computer could do. Imagine a technology that could understand different systems instantly, communicate without words, heal without damaging, adapt faster than any machine. That was the octopus venom. Medical researchers were the first to see its potential. Current treatments were slow, complicated, painful. The octopus venom could reset neural systems without damage. It could help people with brain injuries. It could stop diseases before they started. Military researchers saw something different. Not a weapon, a peace tool. The venom could temporarily disable systems without killing. It could stop conflicts before they began. No more long, destructive wars. Just a quick, clean solution that gave both sides a chance to talk. Computer scientists became excited. The venom worked like a perfect network. Each molecule was a tiny messenger. It could move through different systems. It could understand complex information faster than any computer. Dr. Kim ran test after test. The results were always the same. The octopus venom was a perfect communication system. They tried it on different technologies: quantum computers, biological systems, mechanical robots, neural networks. Every time, the result was the same. The venom found a way to understand, to communicate, to connect. One test showed something magical: a damaged neural network that no scientist could fix. The octopus venom entered. Moment later, the network reset, repaired, working perfectly. No human technology could do this. Other researchers from different planets came to see. They couldn't believe what they were watching. A tiny creature from Earth's deepest ocean had developed a technology more advanced than anything in the galaxy. The implications were huge. Medical technology could change forever. Conflict resolution could become peaceful. Communication between different species could become easier, all because of a tiny octopus. Dr. Kim wrote in her final report, "This isn't just a biological system. This is a new way of understanding communication." Governments became interested. Some wanted to study it. Some wanted to protect it. Some wanted to learn from it. The octopus had become more than a creature. It was a symbol of possibility. Imagine a technology that could understand without fighting, communicate without words, heal without damage, connect different systems instantly. That was the promise of the octopus venom. One small creature from Earth had just shown the galaxy a new way of thinking about technology, about communication, about survival. And nobody was ready for what would come next. Slowly, the galactic community's perception of humans began to change. No longer were they seen as a young, underdeveloped species. They were now viewed as unpredictable, potentially dangerous, and absolutely fascinating. The tiny octopus had become a diplomatic tool, a scientific marvel, and a symbol of humanity's potential for innovation. Time passed. Decades became centuries. The galaxy continued to change. The tiny octopus became more than a creature. It became a legend, a turning point in galactic history. Historians would later say this was the moment everything changed. When humanity proved something important. Size doesn't matter. Understanding does. Schools across different planets taught the story. Children learned about the tiny creature from Earth's deepest ocean, a creature that changed everything without destroying anything. The technology developed from the octopus venom transformed multiple worlds. Medical systems became faster. Doctors could now reset neural pathways without damage. Diseases that were once impossible to treat became manageable. Conflict resolution became peaceful. Diplomats used technologies based on the octopus venom to create understanding between different species. Wars became discussions. Communication technologies reached new levels. Species that could never understand each other before now found ways to connect. Dr. Seong Min Park's great-granddaughter, Dr. Jae-yun Park, continued the research. She worked in the same lab where her ancestor first understood the octopus's true potential. It wasn't about power. She would tell her students. It was about understanding. The original research station remained a museum. Visitors from across the galaxy came to see where it all began, to understand how a tiny creature from Earth's deepest ocean changed everything. Humans were no longer seen as a young species. They were the species that understood communication better than anyone else. The octopus became a symbol, not of strength, not of weapons, but of possibility. Other species tried to copy the technology. They studied the molecular structure. They created advanced systems, but they could never capture its true magic. Because the octopus wasn't just a biological system. It was a way of thinking. Survival wasn't about fighting. It was about finding a way to connect when connection seemed impossible. The galaxy became a different place. Conflicts that would have destroyed entire star systems were now solved through understanding. Species that once fought now talked. Civilizations that were enemies now worked together. And it all started with a tiny creature from Earth's deepest ocean. On the research station's wall, a simple message remained. Words written by Dr. Seong-Min Park decades ago. Life isn't about being the strongest. It's about understanding. The octopus proved something important. True power isn't about destruction. It's about communication. About finding a way to connect when everything seems impossible. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology, wasn't ships, wasn't armies. It was the ability to understand, to adapt, to communicate. The galaxy learned an important lesson from a tiny creature most would have ignored. Sometimes the smallest things can create the biggest changes. And Earth, once considered a young, unimportant planet, it became the most important place in the galaxy. Not because of big weapons, not because of advanced technology, but because of understanding. Because of a tiny octopus that showed the galaxy a new way of thinking about life, about survival, about connection. The end was just the beginning.